Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I've been waiting for over a week to be able to talk about back to school. I'm going to give a few minutes here, just going to make sure I'm using some different equipment. I'm going to make sure that everything is working. I'm going to get this posted on my personal page and give you an opportunity if you want to share with anybody or put it on your page. This is about the overview of going back to school. I don't know, is there such a thing as an overview? I'm sensing the overall energy of going back in whatever way, shape, or form. If it's live, if it's modified, live meaning 5 days a week, if it's modified hybrid, if it's all distance learning, if you chose to homeschool, whatever the case may be, there are a whole host of options that we have never really even entertained because we haven't been forced to. And I think, innovation comes from stress. Innovation comes from trauma. Major changes happen when we're open to what can actually happen. So I'm going to make sure I'm good. Okay, there's always a little bit of a delay when, a minute usually, when people get on and when they're live. I chose this time, knowing a ton of people work, but it's going to be recorded. If you see it live, share it. Otherwise, if you're on our list, this will go out to our list as a replay. And if you're not, make sure to message our Facebook page to get you on that list and to basically see everything that I've been doing and content that I'm getting put out there. So we're going to talk about, if I were to break it down into one thing for this 15-30 minutes, however long it takes me, it's anxiety. And anxiety is a very umbrella word that hosts a lot of symptoms that people are really confused by. And so this is going to be my PowerPoint today. We're going to do it like this. So there's going to be things that that you're not really sure actually are anxiety. And I am not a fan of diagnosing, okay? But it's super important as parents to have an idea of where your kiddos are. So if we look at anxiety in the definition of a word or just really how they show up, it's how that need to know. Do you have the kid that needs to plan, needs to know at noon we're doing this, at 1 we're doing this, we have to do this before we do this, otherwise it just doesn't turn out well. Some would say that's a little bit OCD-like. Some people call it their personality. I think it's something just to note. Every kid has their thing. Every kid has their thing going through certain stages. And me as a chiropractor, I'm looking at, okay, what's normal for a 2-year-old? What's normal for a 3-year-old? How about 5? How about 10? How about 15? Because as the brain grows, evolves, experiences things, it balances or we create more of an imbalance. And so I'm looking at, are we going through the neurodevelopmental stages appropriately? Okay. If they can't sit still, like super fidgety, annoyed, not able to concentrate, they're supposed to read their book, they're not able to actually finish, or the opposite, a little bit more like avoidance, my number 8, but retreat. So they don't ever want to exercise, they don't want to be with their friends. Number 3 takes a long time to get to sleep, may have nightmares. So if it normally takes Jane 5 minutes to get to sleep, now it's taking her 30 minutes or an hour. She's on her phone. She's watching YouTube and TikTok and all these things before bed to hopefully keep her mind off it. So then she just crashes. Or a younger kid will be coming into your room saying, "Mommy, I can't sleep." Or they're waking up with nightmares. So those are some things to look at. This is hilarious. Number 4, eating changes both ways. not hungry anymore, not much of an appetite, craving junk, craving sugar, craving dairy, things that you might not even have in the house, but that are just different, or eating a lot. All of those are important for us to recognize. Number 5, say negative things. This is probably the most scary for parents. The saying negative things is things like, I think I just rather be in heaven. I'd just rather be dead. I don't have any friends. Nobody likes me. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Those things, surefire sign that we have some brain imbalances. Outbursts, temper tantrums from a kid that maybe isn't, you're not used to it. He's maybe the calm Johnny all the time, and now is irritated with his siblings, irritated with his pets, all of the things. An older kid will notice some of the body signs. So heart racing, feels like they're going to have a panic attack, feels like nervous, jittery, hands are clammy. Those are things that are a sign of anxiety. And avoidance, and I say avoidance with... The most important is to understand your kids' tendencies. So if they're normally social and sports makes them happy and their friends make them happy, all of a sudden when they're sleeping until 11, staying in their bed all day, you ask where their friends are, they're like, I don't know. That's the sign of retreat. That's anxiety. You could say it's depression. You could say it's a whole host of social like lack of social acceptance, and that can be a trigger. You might notice one thing in your child, you might notice a ton. You might notice all of these for you. So the 3 things that I'm going to, what we're really going to dig into is it neurological, is it psychological, or is it parenting? I think this is really important to understand. And sometimes in this stage, we're stressed. We're not maybe home as much, or maybe we're home too much, so we're not as present because maybe we're working from home, or both parents are working from home, and you're taking turns making sure kiddos are okay, they're getting to their activities, if there still are activities. But bottom line, stress creates dis-ease in our system, and we start to respond differently. And in the families that I take care of, the majority of moms and dads both work, and so it's creating a really big strain on that, the home environment, that relationship. And so I would be remiss to talk about parenting and what we can do as individuals, as couples, as the household, to maybe help the transition be better, because the teachers are anxious going back to school, the administrators are anxious, the sport coaches are anxious. Although excited, everybody's a little bit on edge. So when we're a little bit on edge, when we're stressed, we're squeezed. And when we're squeezed, whatever's in us comes out. So if it's anger, if it's fear, if it's nervousness, if it's being tentative, shy, whatever it is for you or your kid, we're going to see more of it. So we're going to talk about neurological first. The brain is the first thing to develop, and it develops from the brainstem up to the higher brain, higher functioning parts. We have a left and a right hemisphere, and we need all of it to be working, all of it to be connected at a very, very, very high refined level to make sure we can function. There is a very small part of our brain when we're born just to sleep, to eat, to poop, to move, right? We don't need executive functioning at that point. So every neurological development that we go through, that a kid goes through, actually is the brain evolving, growing, and being balanced. And I think that's the key. We need it to grow in balance, in harmony, so the left is equal to the right. I talk about primitive reflexes, and some people have never heard this word, and it sounds like it's from, I don't know, not heard of. What happens in the brain is that we have reflexes that we're born with that are meant to keep us safe. And as the body experiences things, as the brain experiences things, the brain starts to grow. The biggest growth actually is when you have more stimuli from your external environment, not your internal. Everything from raising your head, babies first lifting their head, to rotating, to pushing up, to rolling over, crawling, walking, is all brain neurology. It's all development, and it's meant for when the brain grows. Well, so many times the left brain grows faster than the right brain grows faster than the left brain, and now we have imbalance in the brain. When there's imbalance in the brain, the primitive reflexes get stuck. When they get stuck, we start to have issues. Now, the issues that I see, anything from asthma, allergies, behavioral issues, autoimmune. When I say behavioral, it could be ADD, ADHD, autism. It can be OCD, sensory processing, SPD. There are many things that encompass behavioral, and I'm just not talking about temper tantrums, but that you have noticed a difference in development in your child. That is the sign you need to get to a family chiropractor. I can't say it more. It needs to be developed. If you can help balance that brain at 1 versus 4, at 4 versus 10, 10 versus 14 when puberty happens, 14 versus 19 when college happens and experience happens, and so it's harder to retrain the brain, the body is going to heal faster. The brain is going to balance faster. Neurologically, that is the most important when we have anxiety, when we have a kiddo that has any of these symptoms, when we have temper tantrums and stomach aches. Stomach aches may be anxiety, it may be a gut issue. Gut is the second brain. We know the brain is the foundation to everything. So neurologically, it needs to be created. It needs to be evaluated. If you haven't had your kid to a family chiropractor, now is totally the time, because in stress and in transition, they're going to go back into their old habits even more. And their old habit is an imbalanced brain, right? It's going to react. A child that stims, let's say, bangs their head on the walls, flaps their arms, they do that to get sensory input into the brain. And so when there's more stress, they're going to do that more. And is that going to be disruptive in a classroom that's already super constricted and restricted, and the energy is maybe a little thick? Totally. That child now isn't going to feel like they can fit in. They're not going to feel accepted. And more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly is that they're not going to be able to learn, because their brain is on overload. It's imbalanced. We got one side working harder than the other. That is what chiropractic is. Second is psychological. If I think of psychological, these are the things I think of. And when I say psychological, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, she needs to see a counselor, but that would be a really, really, really great idea. Okay. Anything that is traumatic creates a psychological response, a neurological response, an emotional response, mental response, and now we have a behavioral change. So any kind of trauma, and this could be as little as, we'll start at birth. Birth is a huge trauma, and that will continue on until the brain gets rebalanced, right? But we have little traumas. We have maybe being late for school and the teacher yelling at that child, and now she's afraid to go to school. That's a trauma that needs to be worked through. Maybe we got a 5th grader that their math teacher told them, not good at math, don't do anything in math ever. That's a trauma. Those things now are going to be like snowballs on the top of the hill. When you push them down the hill, they're going to be a big monster at the bottom, and we can't move them as parents. We're not sure what to do. That child actually won't get out of the car to go to school. Now we have a psychological plus neurological challenge in them. There's school, there's not fitting in, there's not being them being accepted. Maybe your friend group changed and they're doing things that are not in your highest morals or values. Now you have a child that is struggling to fit in. A child, a human, anywhere in life, acceptance is one of the biggest, most important parts. Bullying, it doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter if you're insecure and you think and that person is calling you names and you couldn't handle it, whatever you deem it to be is what you deem it to be. That is a trauma. That is going to be a struggle any year, but this year, when there's so much question and the household is stressed and questioning things, it's going to be even harder. Teachers don't have the same, they're not going to have the same tools. They don't have the same amount of time. They're not going to have the same support that they're used to. Now we have kids that are separated 6 feet, let's say. We don't have partnerships. We don't have working groups. We have lunches that are going to be a little bit, well, not together, alone, right? And then we have the bad thoughts. If your child is really struggling with, I'm fat, nobody likes me, I would rather not be here. That's definitely a ding, ding, ding sign that that child needs support. Family counselor, art therapist. There are many things. I work with a lot of kids struggling and there are many things that happen that will trigger us, right, to behave or respond in a certain way. So as soon as your child, I cannot speak from personal experience, but from my experience at work, there are many children that I've worked with, many families that I've worked with, to get that person to believe in themselves and to think that they're not better in heaven. Now, their brain is not developed and definitely not balanced. The stress is creating an imbalance. So it's important to know who that child needs to go to get support. School counselors may be great. Mindset work may be great. Meditation before bed is great. Journaling is great. Anything that you can help them with to create more of a routine and really focused on confidence, self-esteem, balance in their body, in their brain, in their heart, in their gut is going to be the most important. And parenting, like I said, I would be remiss to not include it. This is really important. It's our role. It is what has become a little bit harder in the last 5 months from what I've noticed in practice. So we have routines, we have play, we have movement, food, mindset, and you, working on you. So I'm going to talk about routines first. This is one of the most important things for a child is that there are boundaries, there's a set of rules, there's lines in your yard so they know where not to go out of. They need to have boundaries and they need to be consistent. So if we look at what the family routine is, when do we wake up? How do we eat? What does supper look like? What's bedtime look like? How does sleep look? Having a system to work off, having routines to follow is really important. Making sure there's creativity. And like I said, you are at the bottom here. This is for all of us. This isn't for making sure routine is great with our kids. It's making sure that we have them. It's not only making sure that our kids are having creative time, it's making sure we have it and doing the things that light us up, do the things that make us feel the best, the most aligned. When you get done with it, you're like, oh my gosh, if I could just do more of that every day, I would be happier, I would be healthier, I would be more connected, I would be a better mom, I'd be a better employee, I'd be a better boss, whatever the case may be. Making sure movement is added. I believe this is one of the things that needs to be talked about more. Our kids are sedentary. When the spine is sedentary, the brain does not fire. When the spine doesn't move, the brain doesn't fire. It needs to fire so that we have the frontal lobe that is making sure that we are thinking, that our right brain is feeling, that we are starting to kind of know what we stand for. As soon as we're stagnant, none of that happens, okay? Movement, move with your kids, move your body, move your mind to create more. Food. There's enough of information out there to know that we ideally shouldn't be consuming a ton of dairy and a ton of sugar and a ton of gluten. That whole food should be the best. I think to take that to the next level, it's figuring out what foods are best for your family to be their best. And it doesn't mean that you are eliminating foods unless you have really chronic problems, which you need to consult somebody then as to how to eliminate and how to add back in. But this is more so about What makes my family feel connected to their body? What makes my athlete kids feel strong so they can have a stronger output? That doesn't mean we need family meals 2 times a day. And with both people working, it's getting more difficult to even have them at 1 time a day. But how can we bring more nutrition into our families? Number 5, mindset. This is the biggest. I probably should have had it at number 1, but I would have never gotten to number 5 probably. Number 5 is mindset. What are you living in from a mindset standpoint, and how are you teaching your kids? Are you teaching them at this point? I'm only talking about right now, the last 5 months going into school. Are you teaching them that the world is scary? Are you teaching them that you can't trust anyone? Are you teaching them that this sucks so bad? Are you teaching them that all freedoms have been taken away, just get used to it, this is how it's going to be? Are you teaching them that school is really going to be awful? You're never going to see your friends, you got to wear masks, what are you saying? How are you responding? Are you reacting? Are you responding? These are the things that when we take better care of ourselves, we will 100% be able to shift their perspective and their energy, and that's our job. We are the role model. We are the role model in the house. We are who they look up to. How we think, they know. What we say, how we feel, they know all of that. So be leaders in your household. And number 6, you. Making sure you're taking care of yourself in all this. That as soon as your kid is having a challenge, that's likely that you are too. How do we get the brain to dial down? How do we get to experience these 2-4 weeks before school starts as maybe a little bit more easy? How can we start to shift it? Those are the things I want you to look at instead of, wow, it doesn't even feel like school. Should we even go school shopping for supplies? Should we even go school shopping for clothes? Everything that the school is doing isn't good enough. Everything that the district is doing isn't good enough. I'm just going to homeschool and now I'm super stressed because how are all these workstations going to look? All of the things that are going through our head, how can we start to simmer that down, break it down into little pieces so that you can start to feel comfortable in this shift? And well, I say more importantly, the focus of today is your kids, that they feel comfortable. So now what? I say now what? I made these cool little signs so everybody can kind of see. Ooh. Now what? If you say yes, I want to see if my kid's brain can be more balanced, if I can help him or her in any way, there will be a button down here somewhere to make an appointment. If you're not sure, you're like, well, this sounds cool, this makes sense, but can it help my kid? My kid is dealing with some severe things, or it's not that bad. And everybody I talk to kind of is having the same issues. Biggest curse, by the way, is comparing yourself to everyone else who has the same problems. You can Facebook us on our page. You can text me. Here's my number. Text me. Ask me a question. Hey, Johnny's struggling with XYZ. Hey, I did this already. What do you think about this? Hey, this is working. This isn't working. I feel good about anything, whatever. Just text me. I am here. If I don't know you, it's okay. I will answer the question to the best of my ability as to what I know in the last 15 years of practice. And if none of those really fit, I would really, really, really appreciate you to share this. We need to have a roadmap. We need to have options for different solutions. And I am always of the mindset that let's learn what we need to learn, but now let's take action, because nothing will ever change. And will your kid be better in a year if you don't do anything, or 2 years, or 5 years? Will you be better in a year, 2 or 5 years if you don't do anything? Solutions are right in front of us. It's important to know, be present, and have some intent as to what is the problem, what's going on, and who can help me. How can I be the best role model in my family? By looking at, what does my kid need right now? What do I need right now? What does my spouse need? What do my other kids need? And how can we create a roadmap to help you have better health, have more connection? If you feel like your brain and body are like completely disconnected, here's your sign, because it's not supposed to be like that. Stress is supposed to challenge us to then make us better. Stress is not supposed to lay us out, to lay us flat, to give us no hope, to say, oh, I tried it, didn't work. No, we're meant to be great. Your kiddos are meant to go to school and be comfortable, even if they have a freaking mask on. They're supposed to feel good. And that comes from us. That comes from helping them feel good in their body, be aware of what their body's telling them, about what their mind is telling them. But most importantly, we are the decision makers for them. So if we aren't able to be the decision makers because we haven't taken care of ourselves, they're not going to be that good, guys. They're not. They watch you, they see you, and they feel you. That in and of itself is enough for us to step up and know that I need to do the best for me and I need to find a solution for Johnny. This is not going to get better not doing anything, or this is not going to get better avoiding everything. It is time. If there is any time to innovate, if there's any time to expand, if there's any time to be better than we were yesterday, it's right now. Because it feels like there's a lot of dimness in the world. And I choose to not see that from oh my gosh, it feels a little gray out there. But you know what? If it is dimmer than normal, it requires us to step up and be more. Be more of a light, carry a flashlight for people, show them the way. That's what you need to do for your family, and you need to do for your kids, and you need to do for you. So I hope this is beneficial. I hope this kind of wraps up. Hey, if your kiddo is struggling, even if it's not anxiety, I'm talking about the whole umbrella. If they're struggling with anything, is it neurological? Is it brain, spinal cord, body? Is it psychological? Is it a mix of both? Is it parenting? And it's maybe a mix of all three of them. We can work on all three of them. There's ways. Once you identify what's going on in your kiddo, or once you identify their behaviors, start asking the right questions, find the right people. You're going to find solutions, I promise. Because when you find the right people, when you build your tribe based on getting better, your tribe around you gets better. Your circle of influence gets better. Their environment now, in terms of your kids, gets better. It has to get better. So once you step into that light and start to be that, your kids will see it and they'll follow it. And they'll say, you know what? I do have the confidence to go to school this first day. I do feel better. My tummy ache doesn't hurt anymore. Or I feel my stomach, but now I know that it's just nervous butterflies. That's much different than, I think I'm going to die, Mom. I cannot go to school. We are responsible for raising a household full of strong, confident kids that have health, that have happiness. Can't create their happiness, but we can definitely show them the way. And contrary, the gray out there, the dim out there is already showing them the freaking way, guys. It's showing them. It's showing them to be scared. It's showing them that we should be afraid of the germ. We shouldn't touch anything. We shouldn't hug anybody. It's teaching them to be afraid and to not be connected to what they know is true in their body because they don't feel it. So I love you all. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, once again, text me, Facebook message us, email, ask us in the office, whatever you need to do. I'm part of your tribe and I want to help you get to wherever you need to get to. I love you all.